Okay, so the first question is, how did you first hear about sponsorship?
Probably I first started hearing about sponsorship in the meetings that I attended. And then it was suggested to me to pick up a sponsorship pamphlet and read it, because that pamphlet was probably going to answer a lot of the questions that I had about sponsorship.
Same, just going to meetings and stuff. It's always been part of the program, so. Can you describe any resistance you have had towards sponsorship?
I've had some resistance, yes, towards sponsorship, in many different ways. So, unfortunately, not every relationship that I've had with a sponsor has always been a great one, right? I've come to learn that even sponsors they're addicts, right? But first and foremost, they're human beings. And we all fall short, and we all make mistakes. And so there has been times when I remember early on in my recovery, I did a 4-step with a sponsor, and I was betrayed by that sponsor because that 4-step was shared. And you know what? I could have easily have taken that experience and shut down from it and maybe not moved on in my recovery to get another sponsor. But that's not what I was going to do, because I knew that if I did that, I would ultimately be the only one that would be hurting myself.
So I've had quite a few sponsors too over the last decade, and I don't really know about resistance. I mean, I just thought it was something that you have to do, but I haven't always felt very close to them all. And there has been times, especially with one in particular, where I was like, okay, she can be my sponsor for now, but when I start getting into like telling about me and like some of my secrets and things that I'm holding on to, I'm probably not going to be able to talk to her about that, because she's younger than me and she acts younger than me. But at the time, she was there for a reason. God put her there, and I love her dearly to this day. But that was really it for me.
I'll add one more thing to that. So when it comes to resistance, probably the biggest thing that I've always heard, I guess especially from people earlier in recovery, is I am not telling them that. You are crazy. I am taking this to my grave. I am not sharing that. I don't talk about my business. At least that was where I come from, right? We didn't talk about what went on in the home outside of the home. We didn't tell people our business, and so I had to learn how to take a risk, do something different, and trust somebody, right? Because obviously everything that I had been doing my whole life didn't work, so.
Okay, so when you first entered recovery, what did you think sponsorship would be like?
I thought they would be my girlfriend, my money lender, my taxi cab driver, my relationship counselor. They would pick me up and take me to all the meetings and buy my energy drinks and my 2 packs of Newport that I used to smoke every day. And it was everything that is not, right? I know today that the primary purpose of sponsorship is to guide someone through the 12 steps. What I believe in my heart is that my primary purpose is to guide somebody through the 12 step to bring them closer to God.
I really can just agree with you. Okay. Can you describe any attempt at recovery without being actively sponsored?
No. I've always had a sponsor, and I've always been sponsored. I believe sponsorships is the heartbeat. It's the lifeline. I believe sponsorship is a two-way street. I also believe, look, I have to mention there's been many times when my sponsees have sponsored me, right? Because I'm human, right? They told me a long time ago, be careful what you give to the ladies that you're sponsored because they might have to give it back one day, right? And Nancy was definitely one of those sponsees. You know, when I was going through breast cancer, I pretty much checked out, and she sponsored me at that time, and she took care of me at that time, and I'll forever be grateful for that. But no, I've always been one to say that there's a difference between having a home group and being an active home group member, and having a sponsor and being sponsored. There's a difference between writing on steps, living steps, and practicing principles. Yeah.
Not really for me. There's been periods, not this time around, but periods where I've been in recovery or abstinent because I had a sponsor by name, which is basically attempting recovery without being actively sponsored. If you have someone that you call your sponsor, but you don't call them, you don't have a relationship with them, you're not working steps, which is just telling my own story at some points of my life, so I just was acting as if I was in active recovery, but really I wasn't, because that essential part of sponsorship was missing. And that's why this time around I was adamant about making a relationship with her. So can you describe how you got your first sponsor? I had mentioned it earlier, I had 30 days clean, and I just asked somebody to sponsor me. And, one thing that I never did was, it really didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter what kind of drugs you used. I really never looked at how old you were. It didn't matter if you were younger or older. If my drug of choice is heroin and you smoke crack, it doesn't matter. What I looked for was somebody that had experience in the 12 steps and was living a life that was admirable to me. Somebody that I wanted to be like, that I, wanted to guide me. I'm going way back to Lynn Roy. My first sponsor was a long time ago. She's still one of my dear friends to this day, but she just seemed to be popular. I didn't know any better. I was brand new, and the other fellowship or one of the other fellowships, and I just was okay, everyone seems to like her, and I need a sponsor. I think I promised my mom at that point that I was going to get a sponsor, so I asked her. That's how I got my first one. But this time around, the next question actually is kind of ties into that. So it says, what are some of the qualities your sponsor has to offer?
Qualities? Mm-hmm. Lots. Qualities, affirmations. My sponsor has a lot more time than I do, a lot more experience. I trust her. I believe in her. Mm-hmm. She is somebody that I admire and that I respect her walk in recovery and on this journey.
Mm-hmm. time for us to? Okay, does anybody want to ask a question?
Hey, does anybody have a question for the dynamic duo that came up from Dearborn to carry the message? No one? I saw you over there too. Trish. You have a question.
I'm April. I'm an addict. You guys are probably going to kill me for this one, but how do you keep step work a priority when your life gets overwhelmed, and how many times have you gone through the steps? Like how many ran up to 12?
So I've actually been through the steps quite a few times, I think 4. But then there were also separate times when I did quite a few 6 steps. So I will say that there was a long period up until recently where I didn't do any step work, but that's not because I didn't do any work. I didn't do any step work. So to elaborate on that, I did work on traditions and I did work on spiritual principles. I just completed another first step with my sponsor, getting ready to start another second step. And probably the best suggestion that I can get when getting overwhelmed, and the gentleman shared about it earlier, that, step work is not a race. And I believe as long as we're working it, regardless of how fast we're working it, we're working it. So maybe that means putting pen and paper next to your bedside and answering one question a night before you go to bed. Maybe it means setting an alarm on your phone for a Sunday afternoon at a time when you know the baby's going to be down for a nap and the husband's going to be doing whatever, and maybe you'll have 30 or 60 minutes to sit down and write on a couple questions. I think a little bit is better than nothing.
Yeah, and also my husband and I, sometimes we put aside an hour or even a half an hour, and we write on our step together, TV off, quiet time. We've done that a couple of times, but just like Cindy said, even if it's like a question a day, having coffee in the morning or at nighttime is a good way to, but you have to discipline yourself, to do it. And it feels good when you do it, just got to start it. It makes you feel accomplished, so.
How do you maintain a healthy relationship of a sponsorship and besides boundaries?
I would say communication. I would say prayer. I would say getting together and doing step work. I would say making time for each other, one-on-one. But above all, I would say honesty. Because there has been times when, look, I'm not going to agree with everything that my sponsor says. And I'm not going to like everything that she does, and that's okay. Recovery has taught me how to disagree without being disagreeable. Recovery has taught me that I have been given a voice and I can use it, and I can tell somebody honestly about what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling, because that's being true to me, and to be able to work through whatever it may be to keep that healthy relationship. He just had to get one in there.
Listen, we can get another one if you want. Is that it from the crowd? Because we'll move on.
Okay.
All right, let's thank him.
Thank you.